Martin Luther King said that there is such a thing as too late. And when I think back at the cowardice shown by our legislators in approving the Enabling Act, I say Enabling Act because that's what they call it in Germany in March of 1933. It's a direct, comparable act which gives our president the right to arrest us, to hold us in prison, to revoke habeas corpus, to torture people. When I look at that, I say, well, it might be too late already, except we do have a chance to make things better within the next 3 weeks. And let me just close because I have this particular affinity with the experience in Germany. I was born in August 1939, just 1 week before Hitler sent his tanks into Poland to start World War II. And so I've always been interested in that period of German history, and I've served in Germany for 5 years. And I had all kinds of opportunities to ask Germans, young and old, why it could be, how it possibly could be that you, among the most educated, most cultivated people in the Western world, how could you sit there and let Hitler change the laws and start the kinds of persecution that he did of your neighbors and start new wars? How could your church, how could your Catholic, how could your Lutheran church not find its voice? And I never really got much of an insight into that. Some of you know Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the Lutheran pastor who did try very hard to turn things around in Germany. He was wrapped up, of course, and hanged just shortly before the end of the war. But there was another contemporary of his that I'd like to finish this up with, just citing for you. His name was Albrecht Haushofer. He was a geologist at the University of Berlin. And he had tenure. Some of you may know what that is, what that means. He had it made. And he had it made because he kept his mouth shut. When he saw what was happening, not only the invasion of Poland, but what was happening to his Jewish brothers and sisters, his conscience got the best of him, and he started to speak out, and he acquired quite a following around him. Became a threat, and so the SS came, threw him in another Berlin prison, and condemned him to be shot. Now the SS was very methodical, and so they would not shoot you or hang you until they had gotten you to write a written confession. But Haushofer wouldn't do it. And they got so angry that they shot him anyway. But as they picked him up off the floor, out of his pocket came this zettel, a little piece of paper on which he had written his confession. It was in the form of a sonnet, a short one. I like to recite it for you because I think it's all too applicable to our situation today. Schuld. I imagine a lot of you have German. What's Schuld? Guilt, okay. Doch bin ich schuldig, aber anders als ihr denkt. Yeah, I'm guilty, but it's not what you're thinking. Ich musste früher meine Pflicht erkennen. Früher, earlier. I should have earlier recognized my duty. Ich musste schärfer Unheil nennen. Schärfer is more sharply. I should have more sharply called evil, evil. Mein Urteil habe ich zu lang gelenkt. I put off my judgment for too long. Ich habe gewarnt, I did warn, aber nicht genug. Enough. Und klar, claro, clear. So I did warn, but not enough and not clearly enough. Ich habe gewarnt, aber nicht genug und klar. Und heute weiß ich, was ich schuldig war. And today I recognize what I was guilty of. And so, folks, I would just finish by reminding you of that famous quote from the poet Dante, who said that the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who remain neutral in times of crisis. I think this is pretty much a paraphrase of that little portion in Revelation that says, I wish that you were either hot or cold, but because you were neither hot nor cold, I spew you out of my mouth. With respect to the hottest places in hell, I Googled hell day before yesterday. And my friends, hell 2 days ago was hotter than Crawford, Texas in August. So let's let that be a kind of warning to us. Let's live up to our faith commitment to be people who care about one another. Let's maybe take our cue from those incredibly faithful Amish folks in this neighborhood or around this neighborhood and realize that there is another way. And realize that there are some people that we can take really good example from. People who, when they were given all kinds of donations, set up another fund for the Charles Roberts family. People who went to the Charles Roberts funeral and comprised half of the 75 people there. And people who, when they found out from visitors to the wake that one came from the same village as Charles Roberts, the father said, "Do you know the Roberts family?" And the person said, "Well, I know them, I know where they live, I know them." But, well, he said, "Well, if you see them, would you please tell them that we're praying very hard for them?" That's the kind of courage, that's the kind of discipleship and faith commitment that I think we could all kind of hold up, not as something bizarre like horse-borne carriages, but what we're all called to. And just think, my friends, just think, if on 9/12 we had leaders who would have said, let's stop and think of why these folks did this. Let's stop and think what we're supposed to do as people of faith. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Let's kind of think of why they might have done this. Let's send somebody to find out from the colleagues of these folks that perpetrated this act why they think they did it. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's see what makes desperate people act so desperately. It didn't happen, but I think we need to rise to the occasion and give that a possibility of happening. Not with the prospect that we're going to be successful. You know, this isn't really about success. It's about being faithful. And I'll close with my favorite passage from Elena's Victor Hugo. Remember the bishop, Bienvenu, the guy, a really good bishop, who says he gave the candlesticks to Jean Valjean, gets him off the hook. Well, he's described as a non-comer. You know, he just had no political instincts. You know, he couldn't even get priests to work in his diocese because he wasn't going anywhere, they weren't going anywhere. And at one point, Hugo says, you know, success is an ugly term because all too often people confuse it with merit. Now, I may be the only one in the world that really thinks that's great, but let's not confuse success with merit. Let's be meritorious, let's be faithful, let's be angry as appropriate, and let's shun, by all means, unreasoned patience. Thank you very much.